And if you need a mail-in or absentee ballot, you may request one at vote.pa.gov through October 31st. And please do remember that completed ballots must be received at the courthouse by 8 p.m. on Election Day. And if you're going to your polling place that day, it will be open from 7 in the morning until 8 at night. If you have any other questions, I'll be here after the program, or votepa.gov has a link to Berks County Election Services, our local office, where you will find information on drop boxes for ballots and their hours. So our November 7th election includes candidates for the Pennsylvania Supreme, Superior, and Commonwealth judges, for county commissioners and other county officers, and for township and borough officials. And you can find information on these candidates on the League of Women Voters online voters guide, vote411.org. That's vote411.org. And the League, in partnership with Berks Community Television, has interviewed many of these candidates, and you will find these interviews, called Candidates Up Front, on the BCT website and YouTube page. Now, what's hardest for many people is finding information on school board candidates. Luckily for us, the Wilson Student Government Association, with some help from Wilson staff, has given us the opportunity to hear the candidates speak on their own behalf. The students set up this forum, they wrote excellent questions, which you'll hear in a minute, and they will be moderating the forum this evening. But first, let me tell you about the job that the candidates are applying for. 9 school directors govern the Wilson School District. They set policy, they establish curricula, what is taught, they adopt the budget, and that determines the tax rate necessary to support the budget. They select the superintendent, and they approve staff appointments. School directors serve part-time. They are not paid for their work, and the term is 4 years. Now, 5 of the 9 seats are up for election this year, and there are 10 candidates on the ballot. You may vote for 5. And the candidates are, and this is not in the order they are seated because I have an alpha list, Val Dell, Jennifer Denny, Brad Hart, Bernard McCree, Guadalupe Casper, Amy Murray, Keegan Orchikowski, Cindy Rusnak, Bob Schneider, and Craig Stoneha. Now, each candidate will have 2 minutes. I guess the opening statement is how long? I didn't get that in my notes. Opening statement will be 1 minute, and then you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question, and there will be a 1.5-minute close at the end. Yeah.
Cindy Rusnak is no longer here.
Oh, who did I miss then? I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. It's, she was in the primary.
She was, and I made a typo. And I still have 10. Just a typo. Okay. Embarrassing, but not a tragedy. And so when I will be the timekeeper, because the students are asking you the questions that they've written, and I'll be holding up a yellow card, and I will say the word yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining. I think 1 minute remaining was a little hard to judge how far you still had to speak, so we'll do it 30 seconds. And then I will hold up a red card and say the word red when you need to finish your sentence and be done. Does that work for everyone? Okay, so that's why we'll do that part. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the leadership of the Student Government Association, Bryce Heilman and Karina Snyder.
Thank you, Judith. Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Wilson High School Student Government, I would like to thank you all for attending this forum tonight, and to all of those tuning into the live stream. I am Bryce Heilman, and I am the President of Student Government, as well as the student representative to the school board. Tonight, I will be joined by our Vice President, Karina Snyder, in asking questions to the 10 candidates up for election for 5 seats on the Wilson School Board. I would also like to thank these 10 candidates for attending this forum tonight. All of the questions Karina and I will be asking are created by student government officers in relation to the topics of interest chosen by the Senate members of student government. We will be addressing topics of utmost importance to students at Wilson. I would also like to thank the administration for all their help with this event, as well as a big thank you to Judith Kranis and the League of Women Voters for helping to moderate this event tonight, which is being run in accordance with their standard league procedures. Following the questions asked, there will be a meet and greet available with the candidates. Once again, thank you all for attending, and remember to vote on November 7th. All right, so we will begin with the opening statements, and we will start with Dr. Lockhart and go to his left. The question for the opening is, what is your main concern or goal you would like to address as a board member, and what are your qualifications for serving in this position?
Thanks. I'm a father of two, ages 2 and 6, in the Wilson School District. I really don't want to move, so I'm vested here for the foreseeable future. I did spend a year teaching in between college and medical school, 6th grade through 10th grade. While that by no means makes me an expert in all things education, I have walked a mile in a teacher's shoes, and they do have a very sympathetic ear with me. I think most important are the financial issues I think are looming. Everything's gotten more expensive. I think that being fiscally responsible with taxpayers' taxes is going to be the most important thing. I really don't want to be forcing people out of their homes with new elevated tax rates. Thanks.
Hi. My main goal as a school board member is to ensure that our entire Wilson community is represented in the decisions that are made on this board. I'm passionate about public education, and I know Wilson is best equipped at delivering a stellar experience for all. As a current school board member, I have worked to make this district a more inclusive and welcoming place for all members to learn, work, and live. I continue to ensure that our educators and staff feel valued and supported in carrying out their duties here at Wilson.
Yellow.
Most importantly, I have put the needs of our students and their educational experiences at the center of all my decisions that I've made on this board. Wilson has grown in academic excellence and continues to be a premier destination school district, which is why I've been endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and our Wilson teachers. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Val Delp. I'll start by saying I have a lot of personal connections through family to the district, through current students, alumni, as well as some family that works for the district in different capacities. So all that to say, I'm very personally invested in the success of Wilson. I'm also a former educator. I taught elementary school music K through 6 for 2 years and switched over to early childhood education for 5 years. So again, I'm kind of echoing what Brian said. I feel that I've experienced some of the challenges that teachers have on a day-to-day basis and understand some of the supports that they need. Now I'm in a role of financial advisor, and I'm hoping to bring some of that expertise to helping to balance the school budget and reducing the need to raise school taxes on our taxpayers. During my time as a financial advisor, I feel I've really built up a skill set of being able to listen to challenges, problems. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Amy Murray. I am a mother of 3 Wilson graduates and a grandmother to 1 future Wilson student. Basically, I got involved because I wanted to represent my community, work for the community. I have some experience in the financial industry, mostly in supervision and compliance. I've actually been in it for quite a long time. I think that what I bring to the table is a different perspective.
Yellow.
And I think that it's really important to have a board that has multiple perspectives. Thank you.
Good evening. As a school board member, my top priority would be to ensure that every student has access to a quality education and that our teachers are supported with the necessary resources and professional development opportunities. I believe that all students deserve the opportunity to succeed regardless of their race, gender, background, or special needs. To achieve this goal, I would work with all stakeholders to have informed decisions that align with the values and vision of the Wilson School District. In addition, I would strive to promote transparency and accountability and foster a positive and inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and respected. My qualifications for this position include a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in
Yellow.
education and leadership, and certification to principal and student superintendent. I have over 26 years' experience in education, serving as a teacher, principal, and school board member. My family has a solid connection with the district. I have 4 graduating children, graduated, and 1 special needs student in middle school. Being an active member of the community is my qualifications, our commitment to education to make me an excellent candidate for the school board position. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Craig Stonaha, and I am a local business owner in the area. I have spent the last 25 years of my life working on large-scale budgetary issues in business, so definitely one of my primary concerns is fiscal accountability, making sure that we weather kind of our current fiscal situation with inflation and with the active building projects that are going on in a responsible and efficient manner. But I've also spent the last 15 years volunteering with kids in multiple different ways, from being a U.S. Navy STEM judge to working as a STEM team consultant
Yellow.
regionally. I've spent time with the Chief Science Officer organization as a volunteer, mentoring kids there. So, and we even do at my organization the Wilson Internship Program, where we bring on interns, help give them an opportunity, and we've hired multiple Wilson grads over the years. So I guess I have a vested interest in making sure great students come out of this school. But yeah, thank you.
My name is Bob Schneider. I am a current school board member. I am also a 20-year teacher. I have 3 children in the district. I am pretty much a lifelong community member, so I have a very vested interest in seeing this community continue to grow and this district continue to be the premier district in Berks County and beyond. We have been ranked by nonpartisan groups as one of the top 50 high schools in the state. We have the highest numbers of dual enrollment and AP. We are not perfect, but we need to stay the course, which is why I'm running. I am, like I said,
Yellow.
a 20-year educator. I am a parent, and I have served on this board through some trying times, and we got through it. We weathered the storm. Thank you.
Good evening, Bernard McCree. I am a higher education administrator at Kutztown University. I have a career of 27-plus years in higher education. I have a passion for educating our young people. I'm proud to say that 11 of my grandchildren live in this district. My first graduate will be my grandson, who's here tonight to support me. And I'm excited about being able to communicate with transparency and being able to clearly articulate what is important for not only our students whom we should be listening to, because sometimes it's not about us as parents and grandparents. So I do encourage all of you to vote your conscience and vote for the right beliefs that you have, because it's about our kids. It's not about me, it's about our kids. And I support the Wilson School District wholeheartedly. Go Bulldogs.
Good evening. My name is Keegan Orzechowski. After graduating from Wilson, I attended Penn State and earned a degree in biotechnology. I am a career scientist with several publications, and I routinely present at scientific conferences across the country. I lead multiple teams in research and development of new drugs to improve the lives of patients. I also help coach 2 youth soccer teams locally. I have 3 children in the district. My wife is a teacher. My sister was a special education teacher. My sister-in-law is a teacher, and my mother was a teacher. I'm aware of teacher concerns, their successes, and their challenges.
Yellow.
Some of the concerns I have are the scope creep in capital projects, as was seen with the original auditorium plan. I have some concerns that board members have not always demonstrated leadership and respectful community engagement. I want to bring my unique perspective and passion for data-driven decision-making to the Wilson School Board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Denny. Dr. Martin Luther King said one of life's most persistent and urgent questions is, what are you doing for others? My parents raised me to put service to the community very high in priorities, and when I decided to run for the school board, I did it because it was very personal to me, and I felt that I was going to be able to bring a skill set that was going to be needed, especially with the departure of Attorney Jay Negrini. It is personal to me because we moved here so my children could go to the same school that I attended. My husband and I are taxpayers, as is everybody in this room. My dad is a taxpayer. He's a senior citizen who is here. I knew that there were going to be some big issues facing the board in the coming years, and I believe that I will bring a perspective that is future-oriented, that is positive, that is going to address issues in a way that can build us up as a community and not break us down. I also believe that my legal expertise and the experience that I've had working with women and children's issues will be very helpful at the school district level. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the topic-based questions, which each candidate will be given 2 minutes, and Ms. Kranis will give them a yellow when there are 30 seconds left. I will pull from this basket numbered 1 through 10 based off of where you are seating to determine who will go first. So we will start with Ms. Murray and go to her left. The first question is, with over 6,400 students in the district, how will you amplify students' voices and perspectives equally and consider them when making decisions as a board member?
I think that's a great question. I think it's really important to listen to the kids that represent this school. I think that conversation, open conversation. I've talked to many of the kids in the district as I've been going door to door. I've heard a lot of things, a lot of positive, some negative. I think it's a matter of being able to listen with intent to find a solution. I think it's important that all students feel represented. So that would be the way I would handle it. I would listen, shut my mouth and listen. Thank you.
Good evening. Student voice is very important throughout the district. We are here for one main reason, and that is the students. We need to hear their voices, whether it's kindergarten through 12th grade, because everyone needs to have a voice for their respective levels. Amy Murray just mentioned, it is important to listen. You can't understand if you don't listen. People come to you sometimes to get a response, to get an idea of what they might be able to do, but I've also learned over the years that sometimes they just want someone to listen to. I want you to listen to them, to hear their concerns, to hear their thoughts and issues. We need to meet with all students at every level, student council in the lower grades, student government in the higher grades. They have a voice. We have one voice on the board member on the board from a student government, and that's one way to start. There's a representative for each grade level to get their voices heard. We need to meet with people. You can't do this in isolation. You need to involve all stakeholders. You can't survive in a vacuum. So I really think it's important to listen, and listen before you say what they might want to hear and what they need to hear based on your experience and what they are interested in doing and how they want to proceed with that. So thank you.
That is a great question. It's definitely 100% about listening. There's no doubt about that. I think as a board member, part of the responsibility is weighing all of the different inputs of the different stakeholders. So the students are a huge part of a school district, of course. I mean, there's 6,400 kids that all need to be heard, and making sure that they have a voice is important. I think it's also important to make sure that we are filtering those opinions at whatever level it is, whether it be kindergarten, 7th grade, 10th, 12th grade, whatever, through their teachers, to make sure that the opinions and the stakes and the standpoints that they have are consistent with what we want to achieve as a district, which teachers are trying to achieve as educators, and then to work with the administrators as well, and make sure that at every single level, we have cohesiveness, and we are moving forward as a team. So the bottom line is, when you're at a board level, you really don't want to be micromanaging this process. You want to make sure that every single person is getting their input in, and they are having their stake clearly defined, and that the kids are being heard, that the teachers are being heard, the administrators are being heard, and you are just basically driving the bus in the right direction, making sure policy is consistent with what is being said by all those groups, and that everybody is not, there's not any one group that feels like they're being more supported than any one other. And that type of equality is important from this position, in my opinion. Thank you.
Well, this is going to start sounding redundant, but yeah, it does all start with listening. I have, in my time on the board, met with a number of parent groups, with a number of student groups, all in an effort to make sure that everybody's needs are met, to make sure that everybody's getting what they deserve in terms of their education. I have, in my time, helped craft policy that has helped to shape a fair and level playing field for all students to have their needs met. We have put in people, as Mr. Stoneha said, our job is not to micromanage. Our job is to get the proper people in place, and I feel like the community thinks we've done that. And I would just ask that we continue down that path and continue to make the inroads. Wilson's not perfect. We are going to drop the ball sometimes, but I think we can pick it up and keep running with it. Thank you.
In my role at Kutztown, I am the financial aid guy. I'm the money guy. I have learned to listen very actively and intently to my students. And that is a unique skill that has to be developed because people come, these stakeholders of ours, and we've talked about the students are our stakeholders, and I realize that very much on my campus because my students drive the bus. It is not the campus, it's not the president, it's our students who drive the bus. And we have to understand what they really, really desire because the kids today don't care about what we as adults care about. We get all bogged up thinking, well, this is what they want. Our kids know what they want. What we care about, they don't care about. They're immune to it. They don't fuss over those things. And I have learned in my role to listen actively, and I can just simply say, what is it that you want? How can we accomplish that? And if we are willing to sit down and listen to our students, and yes, involve parents because that's part of the process in K through 12. But we have got to be willing to listen to our young people. They are the future. I'm going to be a dinosaur. They are the future, and they need to be able to lead by the examples that we are setting before them
Yellow.
to help them to lead for the future. And I want that for them. I want what's been continued in this district to continue, and that we can be collaborative and supportive of all individuals, creating equity across the board.
So common theme here, listening. I think we all agree listening is important. But to answer the question, how are we going to do that? One avenue is directly through you, right, our student government representative. And I think it's your role, right, to bring some concerns to the board. Having said that, we can do some outreach and we can attend student government events and directly interact with other members of student government. Again, I'm a data guy, right, so let's get some data. We can send out simple Google surveys to all the students, certain grades or levels, whatever, and see what what's working well. What do they want to change? What's something, if they really wish they could change one thing, what would that one thing be? And you may see some common themes emerge. So those are a couple avenues of how we do that. You got to listen to kids. It's a different perspective, right? When I'm coaching and some of the kids come off the field, if we're having a tough game, I'll ask them, what do you see out there? What's going on? And sometimes, the kids will say, oh, we're having trouble getting by a defender. We're not getting passes through. but I might see the game very differently from the sideline. So it's important that we listen to perspective. There's a difference between perception and perspective, right? We all have our own perceptions of how things are acting, but it's tough to sometimes really step back and put yourself in someone else's shoes. What is their perspective, right? And what's their perception, seeing it through their eyes. So I think, again, we listen. Thanks.
I agree with everything that's been said so far, but I would add on to that to say that I think while you do not have to be a parent of a Wilson student to be a school board director, I think it helps tremendously because of the dinner table. When stuff will come up at a school board meeting, a lot of times I will go home and I will ask my kids or their friends, if their friends are over for dinner, what are your thoughts on that? What is your perspective on this? And a lot of times the answer is what I expect, but a lot of times it's not. I think we as adults tend to think that we already know all the answers, but I think Mr. McCree said this, that a lot of times things that concern us as adults are taken very differently from our children. And so having that type of interaction with students who are in the school at different levels is very helpful. I think the other thing as a board director that's really important is to care very deeply about every single child, because every student at Wilson has a story to tell. And the students like the two of you who are leaders and who are very involved are going to be different, and we may hear that more than the child who sits in the library at lunch every day because they feel teased or bullied. And that's going to be different from a child who comes from a family with two parents perhaps than a single parent, or a child whose first language is not English. And so while we need to make decisions based on what is best for the totality of the school district, I think you can only do that by considering all of the individual components, all of the individual people that make up the Wilson community. I think that is absolutely one of the strengths I will bring as a director, already having my finger on that pulse, and that is probably the greatest thing we can do. I also have to agree that listening to Bryce and Karina and hearing the input from the students, one of the things that I always say to my kids is just because I don't do what you've asked doesn't mean I haven't heard you. And a lot of times what they will tell me, I will take inside, and then at another point I will bring that in, even if they didn't get the answer they wanted at that time. And I think that's one of the things that we as directors need to do. Thank you.
In addition to listening, also just ask questions, get to know more about what's going on. My job, to an extent, I think qualifies me for this. Someone comes in with an issue, and I listen, and I ask questions, and we try to figure out a solution, whether it's me taking care of it or kind of referring out and seeing who would be the most appropriate individual or avenue for things to get taken care of. And you mentioned just making sure everybody's heard equally. If you want, feel free to come and grab me afterwards if there are any kind of barriers to kind of everybody being heard. Thanks.
Thanks. First of all, this is a great example of an opportunity to hear student voices. The fact that you all were able to coordinate this event and come up with the questions means that these are questions that are important to our students, and this is an opportunity to listen to them. I hear student voices all the time in my house, as I have two Wilson Bulldogs, and they inform me from their perspective of how they are experiencing the Wilson curriculum, how they are experiencing their Wilson Bulldog experience. And so, as Mrs. Denny mentioned, having children, although it's not the only form of information from how students are experiencing school, it's definitely a benefit. I also think, besides listening, I think we need to also offer more opportunities for students to express their voice, whether that's creating a space and connecting students to specific student leaders like yourself, Bryce, and Karina, where students can express themselves and put their voice to some sense of power, where they can actually accomplish something. I think it's important to make sure that we're going to their events, the things that really get them excited, and the things that they coordinate and sponsor. I think those are also events. I love attending our performing arts events, our music events. I'm constantly going to concerts. I do recall an example when I first was on the board during the pandemic, and we were little by little getting back into the swing of things, and this huge debate over whether we should have athletics and extracurriculars. And I remember the students emailing over and over again to make sure that we voted yes for that. So, great opportunity. Thanks.
This is a wonderful question, because ultimately, the reason that all of us are up here is because we want Wilson to be a successful place for you, the students. Your perspectives, your experiences are absolutely 100% important to us making the decisions for you. You're our future leaders, so we want to know what's important to you. We want to understand where you're coming from, what ideas that you have to make this school better. Everyone has different backgrounds, and we want to appreciate everyone. I think one of the things that I've learned, or a skill set that I've learned in my role as a financial advisor is, again, how to listen. What I do is I hear clients' concerns, their challenges, and their goals, and I sit down with them and we come up with a plan together on how do we overcome those challenges, how do we accomplish those goals. So I would take that same approach with the students. I would love to see some sort of maybe student forum where any student who would like to participate come and ask questions and give their perspectives to us as the school board directors, so we can understand you and what you need from us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, do you want to pick for the next one? Now we will go on to our next question.
So, Mrs. Casper, you will be going first for question 2.
And we'll be going to her left.
So, our second question is, our years in education shape who we are as students and our understanding of the world. It is important to us that we are being taught the realities of the world we're preparing to independently head into. In the curriculum of our classes and literature we read, what voices do you plan to prioritize and make heard as a board member?
This is a great, wonderful question. This is right up my alley. I am a staunch advocate in making sure that the most marginalized perspectives are centered in our curriculum, as traditionally they have often been put to the margins. So with our expanding and growing population and our diversifying population in this district, I think it's incredibly important that we center the most marginalized and vulnerable voices in all that we do in our classrooms. Number one, we as board members take an oath to uphold our Constitution, which is grounded in democracy. And democracy doesn't work unless you have a variety of perspectives that are all included. And democracy happens in the classroom. So the things that our students are learning, the perspectives that they're gaining, is going to serve them very useful in their lives ahead. And as a college professor, I have seen students from Wilson come into my classroom with an incredibly expansive breadth of perspectives, and I know that our district is capable of doing this. I know our teachers are teaching around the curriculum, and they are investing in our students' future by making sure that they are getting the most diverse perspectives. So, great question. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, really great question. I can tell you guys put a lot of thought into these questions, so thank you for that. Yeah, I agree that we need to have a well-rounded curriculum that really shows a lot of different perspectives, people from all walks of life, and how they've handled difficult situations in their lives, how they've overcome struggles and challenges. I think that's a great learning experience for our students, to see that no matter what life throws out at you, there's a way to overcome and to move forward and to make it into something that pushes you into greatness. So I think through, our English literature as well as our history, really teaching multiple perspectives is a really good thing to make you very well-rounded students. So thank you.
I think I have a little different take on this. I believe that the student should get the facts, all the facts. And as you learn more and more, you develop your own perspective. I believe that students should be empowered to have all the information so that their mind, their feelings on things can be developed. I strongly support students making up their own minds. I don't feel that kids should be persuaded to have any perspective in any direction. I think they should be given facts. I think that education is very important, and factual information is the most important. I think if you're empowered that way, you will get through life just fine. You will figure out what your perspective is, and it may change. It may change as your life expands and you get more life experience. But I think having all the facts is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question, I had to say, because they all said it. Great question. Students come to us every day into the classrooms with a different set of issues, concerns, and problems. Like they're coming in with a suitcase, and you never know what's in that suitcase that the child's bringing that day. Maybe their parents had a fight that day. Maybe someone didn't come home that day. Maybe they had a fight on the way to school. But regardless of what the issue might be, they need to know that the teachers are there for them. When they walk in the building, they get greeted. But it starts there, building that bond with the students, understanding what their needs are, and talking with them, developing the curriculum that the teachers do. It goes through a process in the district. And, we need to come up with diverse issues because everyone is different, and we're not all made out of the same mold. And that's the beauty of who we are in life. But it's the jobs of the students, as well as the teachers, administrations, support staff, to help bring in current issues, help students understand one side perspective, but not squelching their side. Students also have a perspective. They need to have their voices heard, and we need to develop curriculum that's going to keep them involved and on top of things that are happening in the world. So again, listening to them, working with them, trusting our teachers who do an outstanding job, and bringing it all together so everyone has a voice and the opportunity to kind of drive their path of where they want to learn and where they want to go. Because ultimately, when you leave 12th grade, it's your world. It's your choice to go where you're going next. We can't make that up for you. So presenting you with what life has to offer through our curriculum will help to suit you better when you leave the district. So thank you.
Surprise, surprise, Brad, that's a great question. As an avid reader, I really do love this question. I like many of you, I read every single night to my daughter, and she's going to be 11 next month, and so that's roughly 4,000 days worth of reading. And you never know what's going to speak to a young mind. I mean, up until last year, her favorite book was Harry Potter. And then we read Johnny Tremaine. I did not think she'd even let me get through it, but she made me take her to Boston afterwards. So there's really no telling what content or what specific piece of information or what is going to kind of infiltrate, break through that barrier, influence them long into the future. But that's the beauty of books, right? This is why we read. I think a big part of when it comes to curriculum and when it comes to books in the classroom is to make sure that we are focusing on teaching kids critical thinking skills, making sure that we're using these experiences to ensure that kids are learning how to think and that we're not telling them what to think. And it really doesn't matter which particular content you're talking about, whether, it's irrelevant. But the idea is that we are preparing our young minds for the next step in life. We want to make sure that they're college ready, that they're work ready, that they're trade school ready, wherever they're heading next. And if they come out with preconceived notions, or if they come out of high school or come out of this particular experience with a bunch of predefined opinions, they're never going to be able to develop into their best selves. So I truly believe as long as we focus on critical thinking as a core component of our education, the sky's the limit on what we can do from a content standpoint. Thank you.
Great question. I feel like it's just going to keep going down the line, but I'm going to take a slightly different tack here, and I'm going to say this is something I think Wilson already does very, very well. When you think about what I said earlier about being number one in dual enrollment in AP classes, we have increased our numbers of students that are going to CTC over the last 4 years that I've been a part of this program. We have choice in literature in our classes so that students are interested, so that parents' voices are heard. We have a wide range of subject matter. It blows my mind, as someone who went to Wilson, what is available to our modern youth that did not exist. Everybody did the same thing when I was there. You didn't have the choice. I'm not trying to say it was a bad thing, it's just the way it was. But we have grown so much in that time frame, and we are continuing to grow. I sit on the curriculum committee. We are always looking at how we can improve the content, the curriculum for our students to better meet their needs. Thank you.
It is amazing to me to hear some of these responses, but it is important to remember that when developing a curriculum for a school district, a lot of thought goes into it, a lot of data goes into it, to Keegan's point. And it is not that we are trying to carbon copy everybody, but we want to expand students' horizons. Learning is about exploring. And it does not just happen in the classroom, it happens on the 6th grade field trip for 2 days, and God bless those teachers who went along, because I don't want to be with my 6th grader for 2 days. And it happens when students go to foreign countries and they see how other people live and interact. It happens day to day. It happens even on the gridiron when students are looking at plays in the playbook for football or basketball. Learning is about exploring and expanding the minds of our young people. Seniors who are going to be graduating this year started their senior year in COVID. We never expected that to happen. I see it at the college level. I had kids on my campus who were isolated. They were on campus, but they were isolated. But they have managed to learn. They're still making great strides. So we have to be open to expanding the horizons of our students and allowing them, yes, to be critical thinkers, because you can't make it in this world without being a critical thinker. But also, as Mrs. Guadalupe said earlier, that it's about touching all of the bases so that even the marginalized student feels a part of this community, this school district.
So yeah, that's a great question, but it's a great question because it evokes so many different responses here and gives, different perspectives on it. So my mother taught English and literature for decades, and so I remember in high school I'd bring home one of the classics, right, and it might be, hey, I don't like this. What is this, book? But she would say, hey, listen, this has some really good, morals to it. This has some really good ideas in this book. And I couldn't even fully appreciate some of them at the time. But years later, I've actually gone back and read some of these books, and it's a different experience altogether. So there's nothing wrong with the classics, right? But I think in a modern world, we have to have books that have some modern themes. And And to Craig's point, I completely agree, right? To teach critical thinking skills, not teaching, what to think, but how to think. I think that's absolutely important. We live in the information age, right? It's not about getting information. It's about sorting that information, what's good, what's bad, and what do you make from that information. Very different from when I was here at Wilson, and you're using the Dewey Decimal System to find a book in the library, and half the time was just finding the book. And to Bob's point, I totally agree. Going to the middle school even, and going to meet the teacher night, I'm so jealous of these reading teachers that have miniature libraries in their room. And the idea that you can start a book, and if you're not feeling it, put it down, grab a new book. I just love that our reading teachers at the middle school level are supporting that. And I would challenge you folks in the high school, read a book outside your comfort zone. Read something that you normally wouldn't read in a genre. I'm an avid reader. I have a stack of print books next to my bed that just keeps getting bigger. I have audiobooks, but every once in a while I'll test something outside of my genre that I might read, and then I kind of get hooked into that. So, go outside your comfort zone, find something new.
As human beings, we see the world through the perspective that we know, whatever that perspective is. My perspective is that of a middle-class married white woman, which doesn't mean that we can't be introduced to other concepts. And I think that is why it is so important that the school district produces content and curriculum that is changing with the time. And as Mr. Schneider mentioned, the Wilson School today is not the Wilson when we went into it. It has morphed over time. And as part of that has incorporated some of the changes that we see within our community and within our world. One of the biggest ways I think that they have done that is having classes that are not as pegged. When we went to school, you were college prep, or you would go to what was VOTEC, right, BCTC, but it had a less kind word. And those two paths never crossed. In school today, there's much more crossover between those different areas, and it allows students to have a wider perspective. In the technological and engineering class, which is I think what used to be VOTEC is a new term for it, you have students who are going to be engineers, and you have students who are going to end up doing the work that the engineers create, and they work together at 16 years old, so when they work together at 40 years old, they already have that perspective. I think one of the other things that Wilson does well but could even do better on is reflecting the student body that is here. 27% of the Wilson student body identifies as Latino. We don't have 25% Latino teachers. And so bringing in greater diversity, bringing in greater diversity in the teaching staff is going to go a long way to making sure that when students graduate, they have different perspectives. And I think the final thing is that as a school board, it is our job to look at the big picture, but we do that best by subject matter experts. I know a lot about only a few things and a lot about a little. I'm not an expert. None of us are experts in multiple things. We may all have one or two areas. We should trust on the experts, and we should use them to create the curriculum that's going to open up the opportunities for our students. Thank you.
There was a really cool study in college where they had a class listen to basically a lecture on, I think it was why the Earth was round. And then they had a separate class listen to a debate between two people, and what they were debating was whether or not the Earth was round or flat. And then the two classes each took the same test, and the people who the students who listened to the debate did much better than the people who listened to the lecture. Well, I'm not necessarily advocating that we just start teaching flat Earth theory. The big takeaway from it was when there's multiple opinions, people learn more and better. So, roundabout way of answering the question, that I'm a big proponent of two opinions, both sides of a story, and to kind of echo the critical thinking points. That way students can make up their own minds about things, and you kind of by definition get in the marginalized and those who don't necessarily get their voices heard, because you have to have both. Thanks.
Thank you. Now for our third question. we will start with Mr. McCree. This one's a bit lengthier. So, students gain a lot from the high-quality resources the district provides us. As is planned with the upgraded Performing Arts Center, facilities are upgraded across the district to ensure they are equitable and up to par for students' needs. How would you ensure facilities across the district continue to be best equipped to serve and set students up for success? And how would you go about accumulating and allocating the funds for such projects?
That's a huge, huge question. I've been sitting in the school board meetings over recent weeks as they've been talking about the upgrades to the auditorium project, and it's very complex, it's very diverse, and they've also been talking about changes to other facilities here in the district. I know at Southern Middle School, making sure that they have the same types of facilities that they have at West Middle School. And it is very, very important across the board to ensure that all of our students, regardless of which school that they're attending, that those facilities be equal and comparable to other schools within the district. Allocating the resources is a totally different situation because you got to look at what's happening and the cost factors and what monies can be allocated at that particular time. Also, you've got to look at how that fits into the budget because budgets are planned 1 year in advance primarily. And you've got to look down the road, especially capital campaigns, require a lot of complex coordination to get those things done. And the cost can be very exorbitant. Sound equipment is very expensive these days. I've done a lot of sound stuff.
Yellow.
So, but just trying to find the resources and making sure that we spread that across the board to all schools and making sure that School A has the same resources as School B and making sure that those students don't feel that, and parents don't feel that their school is lacking because of the lack of resources that the district may or may not have at the time.
Yeah, another great question. I feel like I'm in a unique position here. This year I've been attending the facilities committee meetings. Something I'm interested in, how things work, how they're put together. And that's kind of where a lot of the district planning takes place, a lot of what's going to get done. A couple of points, the capital fund can only grow with injections from the general fund or from issuing debt. And so we have to be mindful of how that money is transferred and how it's spent. We are blessed to have a director in Jeff Simcox who does a fantastic job already. Jeff and his crew do amazing work. I think he single-handedly saves the district an uncountable amount of money with just the order of operations, how we do things, when we do them. So we're doing a great job there. As far as the auditorium project, again, I kind of mentioned this, the original auditorium project was kind of this wish list that kept scope creep, all these things were added, and before we knew it, it had blossomed into this $60-some million project, and it was very bloated. There's no one that'll say that the old auditorium wasn't due for renovation, right? But it's how we go about that. And that's really one key point where I lost some faith in the current board. Thankfully, due to some of the team members I'm running with, there was pushback enough, and that project was kind of rethought, take it back to the drawing board, and now we have a much more reasonable version. It's still going to be an amazing project, but it's coming in at less than half of that projected cost. So yeah, I think we just need to do a mindful job of the taxpayer money and not just waste it on a wish list.
Probably the greatest lesson I learned as a parent is to never say never. And I think that applies to a lot of things in life. One of the things that always concerns me is when people are running for office, and not just this office, but any office, and they say, I will absolutely do this or I will never do that. Because that says to me that that individual doesn't have individual thought process and isn't able to gather information that is the most up-to-date and make decisions at that time based on the best available information. And so in terms of the facilities at Wilson, if you go on my website or on Facebook, which is Jennifer Denny, the number 4 Denny, Jennifer Denny, the number 4 Wilson, one of the main points that I brought up when I started this campaign was that I thought that Southern needed to be brought up to the same level as West, and that we needed to look proactively at how to address the growing student population that we have at Wilson. 5% increase every year for the past several years. We are a destination district. This is a problem that is not going to go away. And if the board in the next year or two doesn't act, all we're doing is kicking it down the curb so that somebody has to deal with it later. With that as background, the district, the administration, Dr. Trickett has introduced some policies or some proposals as to what's going to be done, and that is in the investigative stage. I don't know how I will vote on that if I'm elected because I don't have the information in front of me. But I think what the board needs to do is, again, as I said, trust subject matter experts, see what the information is. Look at all of the data and figure out how to balance all of the competing demands. How do we best serve our kids? How do we protect the future generations by not pushing this ahead? And how do we protect our seniors? What is a way that we can answer this problem in a proactive manner? And I think that is something that I will bring to this board. I also think it's important to keep in mind that we need to trust in the administration and the expertise that they are bringing as well. So I say I'm at red, but thank you.
Yeah, great question that probably deserves more than 2 minutes from me. It's going to be an ongoing conversation. Part of it is listening and hearing about the differences that exist between the different schools, and then really getting all stakeholders to talk and continue to listen to different ideas for solutions, different bids, different developers, different ideas, and again, unfortunately, cost is a factor. 67% of American families in the $50,000 to $100,000 annual income range are living paycheck to paycheck. So tax increases to them and people with fixed incomes is not an insignificant burden. So it is a tough balancing act that, if elected, I will take with humility, and it's going to be tough. Thanks.
Yes, great question. This has been an ongoing thing. As long as I've been on the board, we've been at it in terms of, first with the feasibility study, and, now with our performing arts expansion. And I have 2 kiddos who are in music and performing arts at home, and so a lot of the auditorium expansion and renovation is coming in a really timely way in our household, and from what I understand, it's long overdue. As far as our facilities, I think it's really important that all of our students are experiencing their education at Wilson in an equitable manner, and that our facilities are representative of that. I think it's important that, depending on what classroom you're in, if you're in a lab, that you have the same amenities as somebody else in that same class or in that same grade level in another building. I think it's really important that I know as in the past 4 years, we have gotten opportunities as board to to go and tour some of the spaces. I'm not originally from Wilson, so it was really important for me to actually physically see the spaces. And as was mentioned earlier, these are really tough decisions with huge dollar amounts, and I think it's important to bring in the experts to make the best informed decisions around how to spend on renovating our schools. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, so I think in a perfect world, money would not be an issue, and we'd be able to, very easily make all the facilities equal and give all the students equal opportunity with the resources that they have. Obviously, in reality, the money is an issue in some cases. And I think maybe we have to get creative on how do we raise funds outside of taxpayer money. Do we seek out business owners who may be interested in giving back to the schools? Wilson alumni who are now successful business owners here. Are they interested in helping provide some funds to the schools to be able to make things a little bit more equal as far as the resources? Maybe there's grants we can seek out to try and bring some money in to make those resources more equal. I just think we need to get a little bit more creative. And I want to kind of echo what Lou Blake was saying. I've not been to every building and seen the facilities firsthand. So that would be something I would want to do is actually experience, the walls that all the students and teachers are inside every day and really get a full understanding of what those resources are and how they differ from building to building. Talking with teachers, students, what are some things that they appreciate as far as the resources that they have. How do we maybe duplicate that from building to building or maybe even share resources to make it more equal? But yeah, money unfortunately is going to be an issue to always make that happen. The reality is that even if we put the funds in to update one building, by the time that is done, another building has fallen behind. So it's always going to be an ongoing issue and we just have to get more creative. Thank you.
So I would love to drive a Ferrari. I have a salary that doesn't allow me to do that. I think we have to look at needs versus wants. I think we would all love to have everything shiny and beautiful and wonderful. I think parents and administrators and teachers want to have the best of the best because we care about the students. But there's a big difference between needs and wants. I think we have to look at how we can make sure that all students' needs are getting met. Like Val said, there's always going to be some inequity in the buildings because just as you get one finished, the next one's going to need, something else. They're never always going to be equal. I'm never going to get my Ferrari, but I'm going to be happy that I can drive a vehicle back and forth to work and continue on with my day, and I'm getting getting everything out of that car I can. So what I would try to resolve for Wilson is making sure that all the kids have the same opportunity, that we have this great culture and teachers involved in your lives that create that equitable line for you. Recently, I learned of a Spanish teacher, a Spanish class that no longer can take Spanish, or they had to go virtual. That's the kind of stuff that bothers me. I want to make sure that we're bringing the best of the best here in teachers, and we'll work towards the rest of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Our buildings are out of date with some areas. Southern Middle School needed to be updated when I started in the district 2007, when they were building West Middle School. You don't have so much money, but what some people don't know is Wilson doesn't just deal with problems as they come along. Sometimes we're forced to, like when we had a lot of rain, some of our buildings got damaged, so we had to deal with the problems at the time. There's a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan of what we should do based on, at the current time, Mr. Simcox's information and the studies they've done to see what buildings need what maintenance and upkeep at certain times over the past 5 to 10 years. And you'll allocate the money for that, but some things do come along, and if you don't have the money to do it, you cannot continue with that type of project. Auditorium needs to be done. It needed to be done a long time ago. We need to provide our students the best of what we have, and although it was bid much higher, COVID came along, and because of the expenses, we had to downscale it, we had to downsize it a little bit. But the students in the district and teachers and families are all getting an outstanding performance arts center that will be here, hopefully, sooner than later. Unfortunately, it won't make it for some of the students that are in it now, but you know, you only have so much money, as Amy said, and if you want something, if you can afford it, you buy it. If you can't afford it, put it on a list, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or whatever it might be, and work toward that. Save the money toward that. But you have to be fiscally responsible, and I believe the district has been fiscally responsible at working toward what we need to do with our facilities. So thank you.
I love this question because personally, prior to what I do for a living now, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago this was, but I used to be an executive at a construction company, and dealing with facilities and dealing with building new facilities and large-scale commercial construction was definitely a part of what I did on a daily basis. So that's part of the reason why I was so involved with the back and forth when it came to the Art Center. So I, from the beginning, thought it was a great idea. We clearly had some very real issues with that building, and it had to be redone. But as the feature creep, as Keegan said, continued, and it just became a massive bloated project, it was clear that we had lost our direction. We had lost our focus. And a lot of this comes down to that, is making sure that you stay on point. And I think the reason why the second time around we were able to do it for, you said half, but I think it was almost close to a third of the cost of the original project, was because Superintendent Trickett did a great job of keeping everything streamlined, controlling the feature creep, making sure that we ended up where we wanted to end up and didn't make this into a behemoth and groupthink our way into a massive project. This is a classic problem with facilities issues, and I caution people to be, a little worried. We never want to make sure that we assign the value of education to a building. So, I mean, there is definitely value in having great buildings, but typically it's the teachers that make the experience. It's the people that make the experience. The buildings are the backdrop, and they are important, but we don't want to overemphasize it. And there are a lot of factors that come into play when you talk about large construction that needs to be discussed, such as capital expenditures versus operating expenditures. So what you're going to do with a new building, is it going to be duplicating staff? Is it going to be duplicating expenses? Is it going to be duplicating variable assets that will require tax increases? So the beautiful part about something like the entertainment or the auditorium improvement is that's all capital expenses. We can bond that, and we can finance and roll it into our financing. I know I'm nerding out a little, but these are the types of complicated questions you have to get into in order to make an educated and responsible decision about how you handle facilities moving along into the future. Sorry. Thank you, Judith.
The curse of going last. So much has already been said. My first week on the job here, I took a tour of the 2 middle schools with Dr. Trickett to see what were the differences, what needed to be done. A week after that, we got the feasibility study. And lo and behold, 2 months later, COVID hit. We had borrowed money at a really good rate to try and do the comprehensive building project. By the time we were able to put it out to bid, cost overrun had gotten to such a point that we, being fiscally responsible, rejected those bids. We tasked Dr. Trickett with going back to the drawing board. He worked, to Mrs. Denny's point, with experts, because I'm no expert, and to Keegan's point, I have full faith in everything Mr. Simcox does. I also have full faith in everything our finance department does. And they understand these, and they can their expertise allows us to move forward, which is why I'm hopeful that when we get a chance to comprehensively look at these bids, we're going to be able to build this new auditorium, because I will date myself and say it was outdated when I was here. Okay, this is a project long coming. Southern is a project long coming. I do agree with Mr. Stoneha that it starts with the teachers, but teachers can't do the same thing for all their students if
Yellow.
they don't have the same access to what they need to be able to provide for them. Southern needs to be done. And I think under this leadership team, we're going to be able to cross both those bridges in a fiscally responsible manner. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for the topic-based questions, so now we will move on to the closing statements, which each candidate will be given a minute and a half, and we will start with Ms. Denny and go down to Dr. Lockhart.
Our final question is, why should the community vote for you for Wilson School Board?
Thank you, and thank you for all the great questions tonight. I would encourage the community to vote for me, because if you look at my webpage and my Facebook page, I have from the beginning emphasized facts over fear and solutions over sound bites. I offer detailed ideas for ways that I believe that I can contribute and to this community in ways that we as a community can move forward. There's a lot that's happening besides the growth that's happening in the district and the need to address that. One of the things I've talked about for a couple months, and Mr. Schneider has also reported on, is that we're going to have a funding change in Pennsylvania. They've started the commission to identify this, but due to case law, our current funding system is unconstitutional, and we're going to have an entirely new system during the tenure of whomever here is elected. Being an attorney, that is something that I think I am uniquely qualified to address. There's lots of other
Yellow.
things that are facing our community that we can look at as a board that I think I will be able to help with. I think helping to recruit new teachers, helping to increase, because we're going to deal with a supply and demand issue with a 66% decrease in people going into education. Wilson, as a destination school district, will have its pick, but that still doesn't mean that there's not going to be more competition. I have a lot of ideas for how we can try to recruit different teachers and move them into education. Thank you for having us here tonight. I look forward to hopefully serving you as a new school board director.
So Wilson, on the whole, is an amazing district. I want to support what we're doing well, but help find solutions to areas where we need to improve. The idea of continuous improvement is that we aren't just satisfied to stay the course, but we challenge ourselves and others to be better. I have deep roots in this community, having attended Whitfield, Wilson Central Junior High, and Wilson Senior High. Throughout my educational journey, I was actively involved in many extracurricular activities, including orchestra, chorus, high school musical, National Honor Society, the Future Business Leaders of America, Key Club, Science Olympiad, Jamaica Marine Biology Trip, soccer, track, the boys volleyball team captain, girls volleyball team manager, and I was also active in the community through the Boy Scouts, earning the rank of Eagle Scout. So I have a broad experience with both arts and sports and education. I hope the key message you take away tonight is my commitment to being a reasonable individual who is open to considering all perspectives. I possess the capacity to set aside personal biases and make impartial, good decisions that benefits our students, our teachers, our support staff, our administration, and our entire community. I stand before you not just as a candidate, but as a passionate advocate for our students and community. I ask for your vote, your trust, and your support to bring my experiences, values, and data-driven decision-making to the Wilson School Board. Together, we can work towards ensuring the best possible educational experience for our students and securing a bright future for our community. Thank you for considering me for your candidacy.
First of all, thank you, Bryce and Karina, for representing the Wilson School Body and having us here in this forum. It excites me that students are civically engaged and want to be a part of the process of bringing the right people before you to serve you and your constituents clearly. As a Wilson grandparent, I am uniquely qualified. I manage a budget of over $125 million in financial aid dollars, and I report not only to my institution, but to the federal government and to state government. And so I have a huge experience there, but I'm a strong advocate for students, and I'm a strong advocate for inclusivity here in our school district. As Mrs. Denny has said earlier, we have a growing population. We are a destination district. And that is important for us to be able to serve the needs of every student who comes here so that they can get a high-quality education, which I know that Wilson provides. My grandchildren are a product of that. And I am very, very elated that they have the opportunity to be a part of a fantastic community of fellow learners and students who have become their friends. And I support what has been happening with our current school board. So thank you for your time and vote for me.
First, let me also echo thank you not just to Karina and Bryce, but to all of the student government who put this together. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for helping them to coordinate this event. What you offer to the community is incalculable. Why you should vote for me? I have done my best, and I like to think that I've left it all on the table, that I have tried to make this, to Mr. McCree's point, an inclusive school community, to reach those marginalized students, to reach a vast, diverse group. I have tried to be fiscally responsible in the decisions that I've made, that we, I should say, have made, to try and make sure that the community's needs are met. Directly after COVID, we had a 0% tax increase. I believe we were the only district in the county to do that. We try. We stumble. We're human, but we give it our best, and I will continue to give it my best if I can earn your vote. Thank you.
Once again, Karina, Bryce, thank you so much for putting this on. I know this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you all the reasons why you should vote for me over everybody else, but I want to take this time instead to plead for the community to return to civil discourse, at least make an attempt to. 1 week ago today, Wilson lost an icon. Randy Blatt, who's a close personal friend and a mentor to me, he was the biggest fan of Wilson I think I had ever met. I mean, that man just, bled bulldog, if that's even a phrase. He spent nearly 2 decades on the board. Almost half of that was spent as the president of the board, and he was involved at nearly every level of the Wilson experience. The week ago today, he was at a board meeting. He went home, agitated, had a stroke, and he didn't wake up. I really want to see better communication in this community. I think Randy would like to see better communication. I think everybody up here would love to see it. Us talking about policy, us talking about goals, us being focused on direction for the schools. There's not a single person in this room that would spend their Monday night here if they didn't believe in Wilson. Everybody here loves this district. Losing Randy is a reminder that the love for this school runs deep, and there are some phenomenal people here. And if we can figure out a way to all work together and all have civil conversations, I have no doubt, it doesn't matter who gets voted in 2 weeks, this is going to be a great board. So, thank you.
Thank you to everyone that had this opportunity put together for us. Truly is appreciated. As an individual who grew up with a disability, I understand how crucial it is to guarantee that every student has access to a quality education. My aim on the board is to work together with all stakeholders to support the district's collective objective of providing every student with equal opportunities to learn and succeed, irrespective of their race, ethnicity, color, or special needs. Although I retired early due to my vision loss, my passion for education continues to thrive, and I am committed to reinforcing the district's quality and systematic processes to ensure a comprehensive education and a safe learning environment for all students. Drawing from my diverse experiences, I represent various interests and perspectives, and I am dedicated to making informed decisions for the continued educational excellence of the Wilson School District. I respectfully ask for your vote. I've been on the board for 8 years. I would like to go for at least another 4. It's been great 4 years. I was president during COVID, had its challenging times, but the board stuck together.
Yellow.
The community stuck together, and we got through it together. Every student's different. We need to challenge ourselves to meet every student at their level, their diverse needs and the ideas. So thank you. Think smart, but for Brad Hart, I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
I'm going to say thank you to you too also. I think where I'd like to start is I would like to thank all of our current board members as well as our past board members. Going through this process really has shown me that your job is not easy, not at all, and I appreciate the time that you've put into it. Mr. Hart, I remember you as a principal when some of my children were in school, and I appreciated everything you did, so I wanted to take the time to thank you. Losing Randy on Monday really has changed my perspective a bit. He fought really hard for this school. He dedicated his entire life to this district. And so I'm going to honor him today by just asking for your vote. I'm going to promise that I will work really, really hard to make sure that our students and our teachers and our administrators have what they need to be successful. And I'm going to promise that I'm not going to engage in any more of the rhetoric. So I appreciate the time that you took to develop these questions. They were very well thought out, and I thank you.
I'm also going to echo many thanks to all the students and all their hard work in putting us together. It's just so wonderful to see you taking such a part in local government and getting to learn this process firsthand. And you may be our future leaders on the school board someday. So I really appreciate everything you're doing. I truly believe that all 10 of us sitting up here want to see Wilson be successful. And I think that's something important to remember, when we're not all getting along or seeing eye to eye. And I think it's typically our ideas of what that success looks like is how we differ. And I think if we take a step back and remember that and really just try and talk to one another with respect and, share our ideas and try to work together. That's what I would like to do. I'd like to lead by example and show that it is possible to have respectful dialogue and to work together towards solutions. We may not always see eye to eye, and
Yellow.
I've heard many times this is a thankless job, and I respect anyone who has put themselves in this position. It's not something I ever thought I would do, and here I am. So I just ask for your vote because I want to be that bridge, and I want to extend that offer to really understand where everyone's coming from and work together towards solutions that are best for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to thank Bryce and Karina and all the Wilson High Schoolers for their activism and their participation in this very critical election. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and Judith Cranes for facilitating the event and for all the work that your organization does and has done over the many years in Berks County, making sure our community is aware and understands the electoral process and how important it is for us elected leaders here. And I think it's really important that we understand how the decisions that we make on this board really have a direct effect on our everyday lives. This is as local as you get. This is a volunteer position. None of us here are experts in everything, and we are doing this as a service to our community, and I think it's really important to recognize that, and that the decisions that we make are really critical to your everyday lives and your experiences.
Yellow.
I would ask you to vote for Casper, as I will continue to do right by our Wilson community in making decisions that are in the best interest of all of our stakeholders. I will continue to set a positive climate where all of us can work together and defend Wilson's legacy of excellence. I hope I can count on your vote, Wilson, on November 7th. Cuento con su voto este 7 de noviembre, Wilson. Gracias.
In addition to Randy, I think some of my perspective changed over the last couple of weeks with the conflict in the Middle East. And some of the things that we've squabbled over kind of seemed trivial. And I've been pretty thankful for where we live and where we're at with everything. I'd ask for your vote. This is echoing the tough work that the school board is, this is a daunting responsibility. The strength of a school system really can have a profound impact on the future of a community. I think I'll just kind of highlight a few of my points. I committed to supporting teachers. Again, I have walked that mile, and that really does come first and foremost. I do believe in supporting parents as well. I'm an advocate for parents being actively involved and being able to make certain decisions about their, and as the parent kind of having the ultimate decision on certain things their children are exposed. In addition to supporting
Yellow.
Students, teachers, parents, the community, again, this is tough to say in a short period of time, but particularly in younger ages, in high school, you know, if we, seeing both sides of issues, even hot topic things, but just try to keep politics out of especially younger grades as much as possible through the curricula. And lastly, just as best we can with the budget, do everything we can while not taxing people out of their homes. Thanks.
Thank you guys all for all of your answers. That is the conclusion of the forum. So I think Dr. Trickett has a few comments.
So just as we're concluding here, we are going to transition into a kind of a meet and greet process for any of our community members that are here tonight. I would like to bring out our media students to begin collecting your microphones if that's okay, so please make sure that the red light is glowing. They'll be around to do so. I do want to take this opportunity to remind everyone in this public setting to act in a civically responsible way. All of these folks I thought did an amazing job. I'm very proud to be a community member, parent, and taxpayer, and employee of the school district, and just want to end this night on a positive note. So thank you everyone for being here. Again, at this time, you're welcome to approach the different candidates and to have a conversation with any of the candidates that you would like to have. So thank you.